do it live. Okay. We'll do it live.
Drop the mic with Jason Hunt. Southern California. Okay, right on. And when did you end up moving out to Austin?
It was November 1st of 2015 when I moved here to start the company behind the book, The One Thing. Have you read it? That book by Jess?
Of course, I live, but it's my Bible.
So this is crazy. So Gary Keller and Jay Papasan wrote the book. They wanted to turn it into a company. Gary's one thing was running Keller Williams. Jay's one thing was writing books. And Gary said, I guess we need somebody whose one thing is the one thing. And that became me. So literally, I was partners with them for 7 years and learned a lot being with them.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm not a huge book reader. I'm not an avid book reader by any means, but that's one of the only books I've completed and read a few times. So, yeah. It's a fantastic book. Actually, one of my business partners who owned a real estate CRM, which was purchased by Keller Williams, referred the book to me.
Oh, cool.
So, and then that was years ago, and he's my brother-in-law as well. But it's a great book, and I actually teach a course at a local college here, and one of the lessons is entirely based around that book. So
amazing.
I think it's a very important book for all aspiring entrepreneurs, and not just entrepreneurs. I think everybody in the business world needs to read that book at one point in their lives.
Changed my life.
100%. Cool. Well, let's get into the one thing we want to kind of dive into today with you, Geoff, because, you got a huge resume for being, working very deep. Your roots are very deep in the AI space. Mm-hmm. And that has been a recurring theme on this podcast, is diving into AI and how people are using it. But before we get into that, I want to break in first to your history, because I think it is quite unique going from a steel and power company into the AI world. So maybe you can give our listeners a bit of a
sure.
High-level understanding of your journey.
Sure. So we actually have to go back to university. My senior year, I went to UC Santa Barbara. My senior year, I'm doing an internship, and I sit down with the CEO right before graduating. And I looked at him and I asked what job he thought I should get after school. And he leans in and he did not give me the answer I was expecting. He goes, Geoff, you're asking the wrong question. And I'm thinking, what other questions should I be asking? And he said, you really should be asking, what are the skills I can master that are so valuable, they'll serve me no matter where I go? Then go find jobs that will help you build those skills. Best career advice I've ever had. Because here I am just thinking, like, what sounds prestigious, what makes good money, what has good upward mobility, versus what are the skills this is going to teach me, and are they going to be valuable for as long as I live? Based on that, I went into sales, because he said that's going to serve you no matter where you go. Had a great sales career in medical device sales, but eventually wanted to get into business ownership. And that's when I had the opportunity to partner with Gary Keller and Jay Papasan to turn their book, The One Thing, into a company. And when I was there, I learned a very valuable skill. I learned the skill of asking the right questions. Smart people have the right answers. Geniuses have the right questions. A lot of what I was doing was going into companies from growth to Fortune 500, facilitating strategic offsites. So, like, there's a company that delivers all your packages. I used to lead their strategic planning, not because I know anything about logistics, but because I could pull an executive team in the room, and by asking the right questions, I could take them from a business plan that was 21 pages long down to one page, to align a company of 500,000 people, because I knew how to ask the right questions and get them to focus on what mattered most. That was a superpower. And that continued, because in 2022, I exited the company, sold my interests, and I got a call from one of my clients, which was Jindal Steel and Power. Naveen Jindal's the chairman. This is a global steel company, like 100,000 people. I was Naveen's coach, and I was coaching his whole exec team when I was with The One Thing. And the thing that he loved so much about our work was that I would ask him the right questions to challenge his thinking, to get him to think bigger, but then go way more focused. And so I stepped in as chief growth officer over all their operations. And everything that I did came down to asking the right questions. But it was around 4 drivers of growth: strategy, execution, people, and technology. So strategy, I would sit down with the C-suite of every operating company and ask, what's the competitive advantage that you are building? What's the business that will put you out of business? What would it look like for you to build it first? And we would clarify that protective moat for that opco. Then I'd pull it back to, what do we have to focus on this year to make sure that we are sufficiently on track for winning in the short term and owning the market in the long term. And based on that, I would then go to people and say, the purpose of our people is to achieve our goals. Our goals change every year. How often do our job descriptions change? Do we have a workforce that's aligned or not aligned? Are we rowing in the right directions or are we rowing in different directions? How might we unite and align our workforce? And then based on that, I'd have to go to the tools that were at our disposal, technology being one of them. What are the tools that we can harness to align our people to execute our plan so that we have a competitive advantage and a protected moat in the long term? And that's where AI came in. It was December of 2022.
Let me stop you right there, Geoff, because there's a lot to unpack about what you just said there.
And by the way, that sounded simple, and you were right to press pause there.
Yeah. Because in practice, I mean, that's a great skill to hone in on, asking the right questions. And you gave a few examples there of the right questions to ask in that specific scenario. But how can people change that state of mind to be in a asking the right question state of mind?
There's the old way and there's the new way. Old way, how I had to learn, a coach of mine told me every day I had to sit down and write 10 great questions. And he said, a great question is a question that is so big that when you ask it, you don't actually have the answer. You have to search for it. And he said, you have the right question when you ask somebody and they go, great question. So like if I ask you, what's the business that'll put you out of business? How do you build it first? Great question. How might you double the size of your business? Not by doing more, but by cutting half the things that you do. Great question. If you could only do one thing this week, what's the one thing you could do such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or necessary? Great question. What changes would you have to make to your calendar so that it actually reflected a plan to achieve your highest goals rather than just a bunch of meetings? Great question.
That's a great starting point. Like, I'm just going to grab those 4 questions right there and message to my editor, Maurice, clip that, please, because that's going to make for a great Facebook ad.
That's the old way, by the way.
Oh, give me the new way.
You have AI do it. And this is what I learned with AI, that first, when I started using it, I saw it was December of 2022. When I saw it, I saw the next skill. And I think like a lot of leaders, I was like, okay, that's cool. But man, I'm so busy. I got so many other things to do. You know what? I'll delegate this to my tech team. But then I thought, Geoff, I think this is a skill that's worth mastering. I think this will serve you no matter where you go. But as I started to dive in, I was asking myself the wrong questions. I was asking, how do I use this to write a better email? And frankly, it felt like a waste of time. It was, because I was focusing on the 80% tasks that only drive 20% of the value. And then I thought, okay, what's the 20% that drives the 80? Strategic thinking, decision-making. Well, how might I use this to help me think strategically? And this is when I went, okay, I've literally built a career on asking leaders the right questions. Could I get AI to ask me the right questions? And so I figured out how to start prompting it to get it, not to ask it questions like a Google, but to turn the tables and make it my thought partner with me as the thought leader. That blew my mind. So that's another way to do it. And that's what opened this whole opportunity, by the way, because I started wielding it strategically on the 20% priorities to drive 80% of the results. I was in India every quarter. I was at the chairman's house and I started showing him how I was using this. And he was like, what the? And I said, this is the future. And he goes, I agree. I said, we should drive this through the whole company. He goes, I agree. I said, I think this is so important. You need to own this as chairman of the board. And he goes, I disagree. How about you do it? And immediately I committed and walked out of his house and went, one problem. I know nothing about AI. But another thing I learned from Gary Keller was anytime you're hitting a ceiling of achievement, you're just missing a person. So I asked a better question. Instead of asking, how can I drive this through the organization? I asked, who can I get into relationship with that if I were in relationship with them could enable me to drive this through the organization? And that led to me partnering with Google. I started going to their headquarters every time I was in Delhi, and they started to teach me about the technology and what it looks like to identify the right use cases. And that's when I figured it out. It was like everything else in leadership. Look at your goals, look at the problems preventing you from achieving your goals. Ask what are the tools or resources available to us to help solve those problems so we can achieve our goals. And then who's the person that I can put in charge to run point, and how can I get out of their way? And that's all I started doing. And ultimately, during my time with Jindal, the market cap exploded from 750 million to $12 billion.
Wow.
And that's when I knew I had something and said, I'm going to write a book about this and I'm going to build a company. So I wrote The AI Driven Leader. It's hit #1 globally for its category. And I built AI Leadership, which is a company focused on bringing the most talented AI driven leaders together in a peer network. Because if you try to figure AI out on your own, you've already lost. I literally yesterday, the last 2 days, we had over 100 C-level execs in the room from around the world who are all driving this in their companies. And I'm showing up in the room asking the right questions, learning how they are all deploying this in their companies. So we're centralizing all their knowledge so that everybody's learning from everyone. And then they're going and deploying that. They are so far ahead of their competition. They will never fall behind. They will absolutely win.
What would be some of the big questions that a small business owner, maybe owning a service-based business, less than 10 employees, should be asking themselves when it comes to AI?
They're asking, how can I use this? Which is a good question. And we're going to show you how to use it in this podcast, by the way, in a way that you've never heard of before. But I think I'm just gonna take you to a different level now. Let's start with a bit of context. Most people spend most of their time doing 3 things: checking email, sitting in meetings, and then their to-do list. Their to-do list is filled with 80% tasks that drive 20% of the results. And then there's some 20% priorities sprinkled in that drive 80% of the results. But if you're brutally honest, most of people's time is spent doing the things that do not make the biggest impact in a company. That's a fact. It's a fact. So let's ask the question, how might we use AI to enhance our people rather than replace them? How might we use this to focus our people on their 20% priorities and give them superhuman abilities in their 20%, which I'll share some use cases of what this look like that will really give you color on what I mean by this. And how might we use this to augment or automate the 80% low value tasks that's frankly them acting like machines anyways, and a machine is better at acting like a machine than a human is? How do we free them up from the 80% so that we can elevate them to focus more time on the 20% so that we get 10x minimum the output of every employee? That's what I would be asking.
I would love to remove more of those things that are sitting in quadrant 1 of Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants.
Yeah.
And spend more time living in quadrant 2. AI, please take care of everything in quadrant 1 for me.
Yes. And that's not where you start, by the way. That's not where you start. So let's talk about where you start. And this is from my own experience. You are going to have to learn to use AI. Just like the internet, you're going to use this, period, full stop. You got 2 choices. You can go through the learning curve on 80% tasks that drive 20% of the results, or you can go through it on the 20% that drives the 80. I'm just challenging you to focus on the 20. Don't worry about writing a better email. Don't worry about learning how to do social media posts. Start using this on the 20% that matters. I have a very simple framework for how I communicate with AI. It's called CRIT, C-R-I-T, context, role, interview, task. If you follow this framework, Guaranteed you will get good results. Context, you give it lots of context. Role, this is where you assign it to be a certain type of expert. Interview, this is the game changer. I turn the tables and I don't ask AI questions. I have AI interview me and ask me questions to gain deeper context so it can then accomplish a task. So here's a real use case. I was doing a workshop for a group of CEOs, and I asked them, what are the biggest challenges you're facing in your business right now? That if we could solve them, it would just unlock a new level of growth for you. That question is strategic because I really don't care about AI. I care about you hitting your goals. That question automatically applies a frame that your answer creates a 20% use case. One CEO looks at me and says, I got a good one. I run a manufacturing company. I leased all this equipment from a company in Japan. Things have shifted in the market. The debt structure is killing us. And we're going to go bankrupt if it doesn't get restructured. Now, in my head, I'm going, is focusing on this a 20% priority that'll drive 80%? You betcha. So we dive in. What have you done? And he says, I feel like we've done everything. And he lists 5 very specific strategies he had deployed. And he said, none of this has worked because this is a public company in Japan and the board is refusing to restructure the debt because they think they'll lose face in Japanese society. I have no next step. I think we're going out of business. Can AI help? So I open up AI and immediately I put in context, role, interview, task. Like I put the framework in and then I fill in the gaps. Here was the exact prompt I wrote. Context. I'm a manufacturing CEO. I leased all this equipment from a company in Japan. Things have shifted in the market. The debt's killing us. We're going to go bankrupt if it doesn't get restructured. Here's the 5 strategies I've deployed, and I listed every one of them. None of this has worked because this is a public company in Japan, and the board is refusing to restructure the debt because they think they'll lose face in Japanese society. I have no next step. I fear we're going out of business. Role. Your role is to act as an investment banker with deep expertise in restructuring debt. Interview me. Ask me 1 question at a time, up to 3 questions to gain deeper context so you can accomplish the task of generating 5 non-obvious strategies I could deploy to get the board to restructure the debt. Yes, you're going to go back and rewind and listen to that prompt again.
It's yes. I'm just going to ask my AI transcriber to grab it for me.
Yes,
but,
you will.
But I like what you use, the word that you used.
Non-obvious.
The very, very last sentence there. You said, yeah, not obvious. That's the key, right? Because a lot of answers you do get is generic. It's very generic.
Well, it's generic because you didn't give good context.
Correct.
If you don't say non-obvious, what it's going to do is it's going to reflect back to you what you already gave it, like an echo chamber. And you're going to go, oh, I am so smart. That's exactly what I was thinking. When it's like, no, the AI just played you. So if you say non-obvious or outside the box, but the biggest key here is the interview. Interview me, ask me 1 question at a time, up to 3 questions. That crushes hallucination because we are terrible at giving sufficient context for AI to process to generate high value responses. But I just make it AI's job to pull it out of my head. So here's what happened in this moment. It turns the tables and it says, or it asks, do you have any relationships with any other influential executives in Japan that the board would respect?
Are you getting traffic to your business's website, but it's not converting into sales the way you would like? You need to turn those conversations into customers. Introducing Chatello.ai. Chatello isn't just another AI agent. It's a custom-built AI that understands your business inside and out, delivering 24/7 support to your customers and your clients. Go over to Chatello.ai and request a demo today. Chatello.ai provides instant, human-like live support, instant answers 24/7, customizable support, insights and analytics, accurate responses. Go on over to Chatello.ai and book your demo today.
And I look at the CEO and he literally made the same face you just made. And he went, whoa, I would have never asked that. I actually do. And then it asked 2 more questions like that. And then it came back and said, here's your 5 non-obvious strategies. Number 1 on the list, it called the Saving Face Consortium. It said, you have enough of the relationships with the right people in Japan. Oh, hi, honey. Hey, daddy's doing a podcast right now. Say hi real quick.
Hello.
You want to say hi? It's your buddy. Okay.
Hi.
Don't
Love it.
So number 1 on the list, it called the Saving Face Consortium. It said, you have enough relationships with the right people in Japan. Approach them to acquire your debt. Give them super favorable terms. Your debt will get restructured. Your board will save face. I turn and I look at this guy. He's literally holding back tears. And he turns and he looks at the other people in the room and gets super vulnerable and says, I haven't slept in 90 days. I've literally been making peace with the fact that we are going out of business. And in less than 10 minutes, I got hope. 2 months later, my phone rings and it's a text from him. And it said, the ball is moving. I actually think this is going to get done. Here's why I share this. I have found that your ability to think strategically is the difference between growing your business or going out of business. You have to ask the right questions. AI is a tool that can help you do that.
I love that. Mic drop. Yeah, 100%. I do think, Geoff, it is a skill to be able to ask the right questions. Like when you go about your day, your default in your head is just always asking the right questions. And I think it's very difficult for people to kind of wrap their heads around that if it's not top of mind, right? And I think I'm hoping that this episode, that people listening to it do take this new practice or take this new initiative. Maybe it'll take 66 days to perfect it, but to make this frame of mind top of mind.
Can I give you another example of like something that's crazy? I have constructed my own AI board.
AI board of directors.
Yes.
Go on.
So it's lonely at the top. And as a founder and a CEO, I don't always have that thought partner. And so again, this is me just being really strategic about like, what's the 20%? I'm like, man, if I had a board, could I make AI my board? And so what I did is I went to AI and I gave it my 10-year vision for our company, the strategy, meaning the protective moat that we're building toward. I gave it my business plan for the year. I told it what my strengths and weaknesses were as a CEO that I was aware of. I had it interview me to surface the non-obvious strengths and weaknesses I have, but I was not aware of. And then I had it make a recommendation on what the skills were that I would want to recruit if I were building a real board. And it gave me a list. And I agreed with most of it, not all of it. Trimmed it down to what I thought was valid. I then had it research famous people that exemplify those skills. And I had it build personality profiles for each of those directors that I could train the AI on to simulate. So Steve Jobs is on my board for vision, product design, and showmanship. But he is not allowed to give me advice on being a husband, a father, or a leader. Warren Buffett is on my board for long-term planning and risk mitigation. I built a personality profile for myself 30 years in the future so that I can have a conversation with the person I want to become today. Here's a wild use case. This week at our offsite for the collective, we announced a tech product that they had no idea was coming. We built an AI thought partner for collective members. And we had Steve Jobs on my AI board interview us about what the benefits were and all this stuff, and had Steve Jobs pitch us the product like he was unveiling the iPhone, but instead like how he was unveiling the AI thought partner. We turned that into my slides. I literally gave that presentation to collective members 2 days ago. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
What platforms are you using as your Steve Jobs AI? Are you using ChatGPT, custom GPTs, Claude projects? What are you using?
ChatGPT.
Just ChatGPT.
It's in a project.
It's in a project. Okay, so you've
But
created
now,
like
yeah, it was just originally it was a GPT, custom
Yeah.
GPT. I've moved that to a project because a custom GPT, you can't see the past conversations, whereas a project you can. And I value being able to go back. So I rebuilt my AI board a few weeks ago in projects. But this is where now our thought partner, why it was so significant, is we're embedding these types of things into it with lots of other constraints and resources and proprietary data, where it becomes a legitimate product to help to elevate the strategic thinking of leaders.
What I love about it, it's at its core, it's quite simple, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of bright shiny object syndrome happening out there right now with business owners when they see a new AI tool and a product and they want to try it, they want to get their hands on it. Oh, how it's going to improve efficiency in my business.
Yeah,
But
they're
it's
asking the
not just
wrong
about
question.
yeah. Yeah, but it's not just about improving efficiency, it's about improving the output as well.
Yeah,
Right?
being efficient on the wrong things is a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being effective.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Bang
Yeah.
on. So now okay, so the book itself, did you write that or did AI help you write that book?
So I wrote the book, but 97% of first-time authors don't even get to a first draft because it is so laborious, it is so painful. I used AI to help me overcome all those hurdles that most authors face so that I was able to go from start to finish and write the book where every word is mine. But I went to start to finish in 5 months when 97% don't get to a draft. And the 3% that do, it takes them 2 to 5 years.
I believe it. I did it back in 2022. I had a ghostwriter write my book because I'm a terrible copywriter. And that ghostwriter is now, his role has been eaten up by AI, essentially, right? But I had that ghostwriter do essentially that same process that you just explained there, where I had him ask me all these questions. Now, voice AI can do that for us now, which is
like here's a real valuable thing I did with the book that you can do, by the way, for any of your communication that you create with AI, strategic plans, plans to overcome big obstacles. I would give AI a chapter. And then I had already trained it on who my ideal reader was. And I said, great, now act as my ideal reader and read the chapter and give me feedback on what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and the top changes I would have to make so that you would literally, just based on this chapter alone, you'd buy a copy for every person on your team and you would call every friend of yours and tell them they have to do the same. And it would take it like 2 seconds to read the whole chapter and start generating responses. And it was always amazing. I fed it when we were designing the cover, I fed it the PDF of the cover and did the exact same thing. And it called out, hey, this is great, but there's no compelling reason for me to read this or act now. It's lacking urgency. And it made a suggestion on how I might alter the copy of the inner jacket so that it would give urgency to a leader. I'm like, what a great call out. We did the same thing with a guy in the collective. They sell their products in Whole Foods. They got a call from corporate saying, our CEO, Jason Buchel, wants to meet with you to discuss giving you more shelf space. That's like the best phone call you can get if you sell in Whole Foods. And the exec team took weeks to prepare a tight 2-page PDF that they were going to present to Jason. They gave it to me and said, can AI help? I had AI research everything that Jason Buchel has publicly said is a priority for Whole Foods that would warrant giving a vendor more shelf space. Had it cite its sources so I could fact check everything to make sure it wasn't hallucination. Fed it the PDF and said, now you're Jason Buchel. These are the 6 things you care about. Review our deck and give us feedback about what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and the top changes we need to make to it. And it came back 5 seconds later and said, I care about fair trade and sustainability. These are strengths of your brand. It's nowhere to be found on the deck. Here's exactly what I would say, and here's where I would place it. I looked over at the CEO. I mean, his chin was just dropped. I was like, okay, let's go. That total use case from starting research to finishing editing the PDF in Adobe was like 13 minutes. They got more shelf space. They are now the number one SKU in Whole Foods for their product category.
It's unbelievable. And you know, so, some of the use cases, like I've been like, so it's almost to the point where something that I think about a lot is the AI dependency dilemma.
What do you
know,
mean?
you become so dependent on AI. There's an example. I was on a flight over to the UK. I was speaking at a conference over there, and I had the whole plan. I was going to do my blog plan for the upcoming month using my personalized GPT. And we didn't have Wi-Fi in the flight. I was like, oh shit. Now I have to resort to my brain and my creativity to come up with all this blog content. And I had writer's block. It took a while for me to get it. It took me about an hour just to get back into that creative flow. And at that moment in time, I realized I was just so dependent on AI for a lot of my ideas, my creativity, that it was like a muscle, and I wasn't using it. So I started losing it, and it became a problem.
Yeah, and this is where I think you have to know your relationship, your role in the relationship with AI. You're the thought leader, it's your thought partner. One of the greatest risks that I see that people aren't talking about a lot is people abdicating their responsibility as the thought leader. Like if you say, generate 50 blog posts or 50 social media posts and then narrow it down to the top 10. And you just like copy and paste, yes, your creativity is going to atrophy because you used none. But if you view it as yourself as the thought leader and you say, here's the points I'm trying to drive home. Here's the call to actions that I think are really valuable. Here's the category I'm trying to create. I want you to create 50 social media posts, but I want you to interview me. I want you to ask me one question at a time, up to 5 questions to gain even deeper context. And then your task is to generate those posts. And what it gives you, you view it as a draft. And then you apply your human judgment to it. Like, is this on brand? Is this striking the right tone? You're actually enhancing your creativity, but you just played at a higher level. So it can enhance your skills or it can replace your skills. But the differentiator is not the tech, it's you. And whether or not you choose to stay in the driver's seat as the thought leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keeping AI in shotgun and you staying in the driver's seat. I love that. And I think you're dead right, Geoff. And I think a lot of people, I mean, when they think about AI replacing their jobs, okay, sure, it's going to replace people's jobs, but especially you're going to replace people's jobs when they are just using AI, the example that we just gave.
Well, let's click into that.
Yeah.
What is a job? A job, think of it like a formula. Job equals skills applied times processes followed. Your job is just skills you apply and processes you follow. In chapter 2, I went into this in detail because I wanted to do research on this. I studied every technological disruption in history and narrowed it down to the big ones. Assembly line or printing press, assembly line, electricity, internet, steam engine. In every major technological disruption, there were certain skills that became less valuable and certain processes that became obsolete. The jobs that harnessed those skills and followed those processes went away. What happened to the people? They learned new skills and they learned to follow new processes. 6 out of 10 jobs that exist today did not exist in 1940. And I guarantee that what you do today, at one point, you did not know how to do what you do. You were able to learn it. There are certain skills that are going to become more valuable. Here's what I realized. John D. Rockefeller was running Standard Oil in 1900. He sees factories booming everywhere and he sees a problem because all of the kids coming out of school, his future workforce, did not have the skills that they would need to win in an industrial world. And he went on record as saying, we don't need a nation of thinkers. We need a nation of workers. And so he decided to start the General Education Board in 1902. Over 20 years, gave $100 million to fund it which is $3.7 billion today. One goal: change the public education system to teach kids the skills they would need to win in an industrial world. You know what those skills were? Show up to school on time, take direction from a teacher, do something repetitively with minimal error, with maximum efficiency, so you can get a good grade, so you can get a good job, so you can show up to work on time, take direction from a boss, do something repetitively with minimal error, with maximum efficiency, so you can get promoted, make more money, and live a good life. Here's what happened, though. We stopped acting like humans and started acting like machines. We set aside our humanity to meet the needs of machines. People are still working like industrial workers. They are acting like machines. A machine is going to be better at acting like a machine. All those tactical skills focused on outputs: generate this report, draft this email, send this message, create this thing. That's going away. But strategic thinking, problem solving, communication, collaboration, creation, the skills that make us us, are going to become more valuable. I believe this will enhance us. It will not replace us. The problem is we have not been acting like us.
All right. So begs the question. When you look into your crystal ball, say 5 years from today. 5 years is a long time in the AI world. What were we doing 5 years ago? We didn't have ChatGPT. We weren't using AI like we are today. So where do you see things progressing 5 years from today? In seeing what you're saying here, is everybody's going to have to rely solely on strategic thinking to do work and make money, have jobs?
I can't predict 5 years, because honestly, if I even go back 1 year ago versus who I am today, if you had told me that I would be doing what I'm doing and thinking the way I'm thinking and who I am now, honestly, I would not believe you. If you had told me that would have happened in 10 years, I would have not believed you. So going out 5 years, not possible.
Yeah.
Here's what I can say. We are shifting from being the player of an instrument in an orchestra, where I play the violin, I do marketing, I do sales, I do operations, I do finance, to becoming a composer of strategy and a conductor of teams and technology. As composer of strategy, you're casting a vision for the future and pointing to where you're going. As conductor, you're waving the baton and you're moving people and technology to work in unison to achieve your most ambitious goals. Now, as leaders, we already know how to conduct teams. It's called leverage, delegation, leadership. But your org chart is no longer just filled with people. It's also going to be filled with AI agents. So do I believe that, I can get AI to do the work that a paralegal can do today? Do I have to be a paralegal to execute that kind of output? No, I just have to know how to talk to AI in a way that gets it to execute like a paralegal. And then if I need a real attorney to review the document and apply human judgment, I do that, but it collapses the time. So that's where things are just going to shift massively.
Okay. It's not the 5-year answer. I'm going to take that answer though. All right. I like that answer.
Because what does it look like in 5 years? Is us trying to attach ourselves to an outcome, which is the wrong question. The question is not, what is it going to look like? The question is, who can we become? And how might we harness this technology to enhance what makes us us? What does that look like in 5 years? That actually doesn't matter. What matters is that we are thinking the right way and taking the right actions so that we increase our possibilities in the future. And then we just keep taking step after step.
It's so scary yet so exciting at the same time, isn't it?
I have felt both. Now I am just in straight excitement. I do still have some fear and apprehension, but because let me be clear. I am a massive optimist on AI. I also see the risks of it. Totally. One of the biggest ones is that I think a lot of humans are lazy. And I think a lot of people will allow AI to replace them because they let AI become the thought leader and they will let their skills atrophy. That scares me for society. But for me, like, this is a big part of why I wrote The AI-Driven Leader, is a call to action for leadership. With the right leadership, I believe this can enhance us. Without the right leadership, I believe the future does not become as bright.
Interesting. Okay, let's dive in.
We went deep.
We did. No, we did. And I love it. I love that you went there, Geoff.
Shake it off.
Yeah. No, it's good. I want to let's talk a bit about the AI-Driven Leadership Collective. What's that about? What's the goal and mission of it?
The mission is to create a new category of leader, which is an AI-driven leader. This is a leader who recognizes that every human has unique strengths, that if we harness them, focus them on the 20% priorities of that person's role that are in alignment with the company goals, and then we use AI to enhance them and give them superhuman abilities in their 20%. Oh, baby, that is building better businesses. That is building better lives. But the problem is, every leader knows AI is the future. They don't know where to start. They fear they're falling behind, and they are. And you gotta move because your competition is driving growth. Thinking strategically has always been the mandate of a leader, but now that's like, go figure this AI thing out. You can feel like you're on an island. And for me, I knew that trying to know everything about AI is how you guarantee that you lose. Because it's moving too fast. You can't. And your job's not to become an AI expert. Your job's to drive growth. So how do you stay focused on driving growth while making sure you never fall behind? The only way you can do that is through collaboration. And so I thought, okay, how do I create the world's a category defining network of some of the world's most talented AI-driven leaders? And how do I create that community where we collaborate with each other on the problems that we're facing and we share with each other how we would approach this? And then we use AI at the bed of all of that. You'll learn more in a year than most will in a lifetime. And I'm seeing it happen. I'm seeing it happen in the room. And it's truly mind-blowing. And the thing is, like, when I say the world's most talented AI-driven leaders, some of these people have just started. What unites us is not the level of maturity of them using the technology. It's a commitment to saying, I'm not delegating this to my IT team. It's my job to cast a vision for the future. It's my job to define our strategy for how we're going to win. And it's my job to know enough that I can lead the company. Then I can delegate other stuff, but I am leading this from the front. That's what unites us. And man, these companies are going to kill it. They're going to kill it.
Okay. That's awesome. Geoff, how can people reach out to you? How can they get involved if they're interested?
Yeah, sure. So first, the book, The AI-Driven Leader, on Amazon, Audible, Kindle. The website is aileadership.com. If you're interested in the collective, I will say it is application only. We interview people and we invite the right people in. It's very tightly curated. But if that interests you, I certainly invite you to apply. And I will say, if you get a copy of the book and you email the receipt to book@aileadership.com, we will send you a comprehensive prompt library of the strategic prompts. How do you use this for strategic planning? How do you use it for performance reviews? How do you review it for cultural analysis? Like the stuff that we should be doing as executives, it's all how to do it for that. Wildly valuable.
Awesome. This was a mic drop episode, Geoff. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you're doing in this space.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, podcast listener, for checking out that episode of Drop the Mic. If you liked that episode, I would love it if you went on over to your podcast platform and left us a 5-star review. And if you don't want to miss an upcoming episode of Drop the Mic, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.